Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode in, I guess YouTube, this one. Although it is kind of Minecraft, I suppose. You may notice a weird microphone sound, and that's because I want to be able to type properly, so I've set my microphone off to the side. It makes things sound a little bit weird, but it's still pretty it's still pretty acceptable, and now I can actually type properly. So that's very important when you're coding. And that's what I sort of want to try out here. I'm sort of testing the waters, poking a toe into the pond. I want to try out doing a sort of Let's Mod series, I guess, where I write my mod, which I've been working on for a little while now, and I'll introduce you to it in just a moment. But I'll start programming my mod and sort of do it like a Let's Play. It's not going to be a tutorial, but much like a Let's Play, if you want to learn more about modding, this is a pretty decent source, I expect. I'll try not to commit any grave errors that would lead you astray, but if you're confused, there's always information on Forge documentation, Forge modder support. That's where you would get some more authoritative information rather than me, because I'm still learning. So I might make some mistakes. However, I'm having a lot of fun doing this stuff, so hopefully the more technical viewers in my viewer base, which I think is most of you, after all, 99% or so are from the Redstone tutorials. Hopefully the more technical ones in my viewer base will enjoy this. So currently we're in one of my GUI pages, and that's because that's what I've been working on lately. Probably won't work too much on it because I've mostly finished it off. I guess a good idea would be to show you what I've been doing. I suppose what's this mod about? Here we are in the testing environment. It's just a normal world, but I've sort of set it up so that things will work. Now this is our mod tab, and it's called Artificing. So this is sort of a crystal mod, but there's going to be other stuff in it too. I'll just give you a brief overview of some of the things that I've done. Our primary crafting system is this table here, and what it'll do, or what it already does, I suppose, is if you take the crafting ingredients, one of my crafting recipes goes like this, and you don't actually have to position them in any particular way, but I'll just place them like that. Grab your artificer's wand, and woof, you get your output like that. So I think that'll work pretty nicely for our crafting system. Basically our primary energy system. I need to update the texture on that one apparently. Our primary energy system is with these crystals here, and this first one is a redstone crystal. Pretty simple. You just power it and it'll work. And you can see it's generating oscillation frequency, which is probably something I'll alter. I haven't really fleshed out the names of things properly, so take that stuff with a grain of salt. And these ones transfer energy, so it's getting 5, 10, transferring back and forth. Basically, energy is transferred between crystals, and some crystals do stuff when they have energy. That's the general idea here. And pretty much all these crystals, I don't think they need explaining at the moment. That would be going into too much depth. This is currently useless, but I want to try and make something with that. And I've also got a couple things like this. Pow! This thing is actually really cool. So it's a jar of Peruvian instant darkness powder. Harry Potter fans might get the reference. I've got a couple different sizes of it, and it's pretty neat actually, because if you put it through an environment like a tube or whatever, it'll spread dynamically. This is very loud. So let me just show you that, because it's actually pretty neat. It also blocks out light, so mobs can spawn in there. Anyway, if we place this here, for example, you can see it spreads down the tube and then out the end, and I think that's pretty cool. Then there's also Dust of the Devourer, which which fails to make the is replaceable checks that the Peruvian darkness powder does make. So there's that. The crystal lattice tweaker is sort of a wrench, I suppose, from my mod, and it doesn't have too much functionality as of right now. You can use it to link these long-range transference crystals, like so. Okay, let me grab that. Let me grab that. Pop this one in here. Pop this one in here. Okay, now you can see they've got the linky particles. And if they had energy, they'd be transferring it. So you know, it does stuff. The crystal lattice tweaker. That's pretty much it at the moment. I've also got a GUI starting. I don't actually have a book for it, so I've hooked the opening key to right-clicking with this thing. You can see that I have the beginnings of a GUI, as you can see, like that. And I need to tweak these button placements a little. But they do work, so I'm not too fussed about that. With the intro out of the way, I think we can sort of get into the nitty-gritty of what I want to do in this episode, this first episode. As you can see over in this column, I've already got a bunch of stuff, and you saw it in the game too. And what I want to start doing is moving configuration options from this one over to the rest of the crystals, because I sort of made them all at once, and I then wanted to tweak something, and I tweaked it on this, and I need to spread the tweak over to the other ones. I also need to remember exactly what I did tweak. I think most of it was this sort of thing, taking sort of standard bits and pieces that refer to how the crystal works, and allowing them to be customizable through the config options, which I believe, let's see, config variables. That's from here, I think. Yeah. So you can see we have various crystal options here. So yeah, I've got a bunch of variables here, and I want to allow the customizability to spread beyond just this one crystal. So let me figure out exactly what I need to do. Okay, so this is going to be a slightly tedious job, I think, and I'm going to drag my my copy from page over onto my second monitor so I can see it at all times. So I'm going to basically just go through these variables and make sure the things correspond to what they ought to correspond to. So for example, range ought to be that thing, and the range right here, actually, it ought to be 3. Whoa, what did I do there? Oh, okay. 3. Actually, I just realized that I set this up a lot better. Oh, hold on. I set this up a lot better than I expected, because I was expecting to copy it over to all of them. So what we actually want to be doing is, oh, can't manage the spacing. Basically just copying all of the contents of this over to over to each new thing, and as we do so, we will get rid of the variables that we've already copied the values for. So range 1, and now we can get rid of this line, max energy, update that, all that good stuff. And I'll just talk to you about what this stuff is for this first one, and then I'll do the rest off camera. So maximum energy is how much energy it can hold before it explodes, and we've got that copied down, so don't need that anymore. Transfer rate is the amount it'll transfer at a time. In the case of these batteries, this is a small battery. Transfer rate is how much it'll suck up and how much it'll spit out, which I guess I haven't talked to you about either, but basically the batteries can suck the energy in from the system, as well as just spreading it around, which most things do. Let's see, draw connections. Draw connections is whether or not the crystal ought to be drawing those particle connections whenever it should be. That's all this stuff is customizable in the config. Transfer list is already down there. That's the list of blocks that it's going to transfer to. It searches every couple of seconds. Block pause equals this pause. I don't think I want that to exist, regardless of whether I should or shouldn't. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's this thing customized. I don't think I wrecked anything while I was talking. I'll probably rewatch the video just to make sure. Oh yeah, and then there are the things that it didn't have before, like max number of connections. This is something I need to add to the small battery. Another if statement. I want these things to have a maximum number of connections, of course. And I think 2 is right for the small battery, or actually 1 is the right thing for the small battery. Forgot about that. Let's see. Dot number, that's the number of dots it will create with its drawing connections. And the mod event rate is how often things happen. In this case, that number. So I ought to copy this over here. And each integer that this thing is incremented by is another tick. So mod event rate being 40 by default means that every 2 seconds something happens. And playing a sound is what happens when it draws a connection, or I guess just generic sounds as well. But most of the time it's drawing a connection and making a sound. And I think that's pretty much it. If this was a generator, then the generation rate would be how much energy per generation it generated, if you get my drift. I have actually copied the stuff over now, and I've also done a little bit of testing and a couple other tweaks that I'll show you in just a second. But it seems to be going pretty well. I think my generalization changes have worked, so all these variables here now actually customize what's going on down here, and if I make a copy, then it's also pretty easy to adjust. So if I want to make a new block, and I think we will later in this episode, it'll be pretty easy to do so. Now I actually have done a couple things, one of which is not so productive, one of which is a little more so, and I'll show you the not productive one first. Well, never mind. I'm right here. I've actually updated the texture or models of all these things. So I got some transparent textures from Krita, and I basically just exported a bunch of nice colors with transparency and no texture, because I was a little bit. I think this is better than the previous way we were doing it, with where there were lines and things from the glass textures. And even if it isn't, this way is much more customizable, because I don't have to limit myself to the 16 glass textures. Although hypothetically I could change the hue of the glass, but it's a little bit of a pain. Definitely more of a pain than just coloring in a square. I can do that. I can do coloring in a square. Now the other thing I've changed is with our GUI here. So it looks all nice and happy, and then pow. I added a fabulous new font. And oh boy, is it fabulous. No. In my defense, it looks a lot better in the font file. And that is the third iteration of the font. The other ones were even better. But that font is not so fabulous, so I'll be changing it back to the default. However, I did actually manage to add a font into the game, which in itself is an achievement. And that means if I ever find a ping file that works nicely as a journal font, or make a ping file that works nicely as a journal font, then we will have the ability to put it into the game really easily. And I can show you in just a second how I did that. So yeah, over in our GUI folder here, we've got GUI font, and I think that's pretty much it. Although, actually, if I can remember, I think it's the inept table page that has the font that implements it. Anyway, basically we just extend font renderer, which is the class that actually renders the font, or holds the bits and pieces to tell how to render the font, I should say. And I override render Unicode character and this stuff. Basically, it's all just so that I can instantiate it later and pass in my custom font ping. it's not actually that I've done anything clever in this class here. This was already done for me. Although actually, I could probably, if I understood this, I copied this and pasted it shamelessly. If I take the time to understand this code right here, I could probably figure out how to position the locations of the characters inside the font ping, by which I mean tell the game where to look for each letter, because I think that's one of the main problems with my current font. However, enough of that. Let's see. So actually using this thing down in our GUI for the page, artificial artificing.proxy, that's the proxy that's instantiated in artificial artificing down here. So the proxy either it instantiates the client proxy or the server proxy, depending on whether it's running on the client or the server. So that allows you to call Minecraft.getMinecraft, which is a favorite of people's, without crashing the game. So that'll allow you to get your hands on rendery things, basically. And .borealis.drawstring. Borealis is the variable that I instantiated our font renderer to, and it's not actually the Borealis font, because I couldn't find a nice ping for that. I might try and make one later, but I still named it that because I never updated it. And drawstring, so that's just the string that you want to draw, right? Yeah, Borealis, the variable, if we open the declaration, is in common proxy, and it's set to null in the common proxy because we don't want to load Minecraft.getMinecraft.crash in the server proxy. So only in the client proxy will the inherited field Borealis actually turn into something useful, and so it won't crash the server proxy. So down here in the init, Borealis equals new GUI font, which is our class over here, and we pass the constructor that we need, the settings, and the resource location of our of our journal scroll3.ping for the font. So that's how I did that. I think probably the next thing I want to do is just add a block, show you how I've got my things set up. So over in block base, actually I haven't updated block base to my new organized system of fanciness, so instead I'll just copy the code from one of my other tile entities. So let's say I choose block generator. Oh, right, can't paste it into the folder it already exists as. So let's say block generator fire, because I'm going to go for a heat generator. I've already got the model for it, so I don't have to show you that. Although, actually, let me open up the model creator here, so you can see I've been using the model creator by Mr. Crayfish, and you can find it pretty easily just with a Google search, so I probably won't put a link in the description. Anyway, if we import the project, load project, let's see, heat generator. This is the model I've created here, and you can see it's got a lot of flamey bits. And the way this works mostly is you've got these elements over on the right, and you've got the properties of them. You can duplicate them and alter the duplicated version. You can delete them because I don't want that one. So that's pretty much how I've been doing things, and you can export as JSON. Actually, I don't know, did I ever set the particle for this thing? Yes, I think so. Alright, in that case I don't need to alter that. But yeah, back to our code. I need to change this stuff so that it doesn't give me errors for being in the wrong location, because it is in the wrong location as declared by its package, because I copied the code. So I'll just be a moment as I change these things and the constructor for the right name, stuff like that. Okay, so what I've got so far is I've updated the packages and whatnot. So it's basically just currently a duplicate of our redstone generator, except it doesn't have the same name. So I'll go through the process. So the hardness and the light level are all good. I want the opacity of this stuff actually to be 0, because I found it it has little lighting glitches otherwise. So I'm going to have to go back and update that for the other ones as well. Material.glass is fine. And if we want to set the... No, that's just the variables up here. So this is the block. Now, most of the cool stuff happens in the tile entity, but I've also got it so that if you right-click the block, it'll say... it'll give you the amount of energy stored in it. So that's basically all this stuff does. And it also gives the tooltip. So I should change this tooltip to something useful, but for the now, for the moment, I'll put that like so. Startup client. This basically just attaches a model to your item block. not too important, but that's what makes the item look nice. Now in the tile entity, we have all our customized variables of niceness here. So I'm going to give this range of 3, maybe we'll make it a mid-tier generator, so 350 max energy, and the transfer rate can be 10, and the dot number is not relevant. Max connections can be 3. Let's see, generation rate, let's give it 5. So that's actually pretty quick generation. Maybe we'll drop it to 3. But yeah, for a passive item, which this is going to be, I think. Or actually, we could make this a sort of furnace generator. You drop items nearby and eats them up and generates power, and that might be a cool thing to do. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. Maybe we'll also give it a sort of passive generation without the items as well, if you place it over lava. All right, I think that's a pretty good idea. So the generation rate can be 1 or 2. No, 3 is good. Okay, so the generation rate is going to be 3 when it's placed over the lava, and it'll gain an extra 3 while it's burning stuff. I think that'll work pretty nicely. And the draw connections, play sound, it's all pre-assigned by the player. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm probably not going to mess with this for the moment. I'll do that in just a second once I've actually added the thing to the game. But I should also set the colors. Currently it's just white for whatever reason. No, it's red because this is redstone particles, and they've got a weird coloring where if you put in 0 for the red value, it defaults to 1 or something. Or never mind. That was clever of me. This is the RGB. That last value was alpha. That's why I got confused. So, or maybe it was flags or something. But regardless, this is the RGB. That's what we care about. And we actually do kind of want it to be red, but maybe if we also give it some green, it'll be sort of oranger. Oh, what did I do? No, stop lagging, OBS. Or not OBS. This thing, Eclipse. We'll give it some green as well and hope that works. Otherwise, I've got an RGB picker. So moving on, we go to proxy. Let me pull out the proxy, and we can close this for the moment. Proxy, client proxy, and we want to call the pre-init, init, and post-init methods for our class. So that's just blocks and startup client pre-init, and we do that for init and post-init, like so. And now that we've got the client proxy out of the way, we don't need to deal with the proxies anymore. So we go into startup common. This is where basically everything is declared. So I've got my resource locations and my sound events and my block objects, all that good stuff. So we want to add another block object, and it's block generator fire, I think. Block generator fire. And we'll have to import the class. That's good. And then you create an item block, static item block. There we go. So we create an item block, and we will later attach the item block to the block, but we haven't done that yet. Currently, we've just created a block generator fire and an item block that has the name item block generator fire. And we still need to instantiate both of those and attach the item block to our block. So this is where we actually... Sorry, I have a lot of trouble typing and talking at the same time. Block generator fire. Okay. So this is where we actually instantiate the things. We're taking our block generator fire, which is not an instance of, but is a type of block generator fire, and we're making it into a new block generator fire. We're instantiating it into a new block generator fire, and then we need to register that. My typing. I'm not normally like this. It's just. Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of trouble typing and talking at the same time. So we register the thing, then we instantiate the item block into a new item block for our previous thing. Then we need to set the registry name for the item block that'll be used by the game to do various things. And we instantiate. Nope, we don't instantiate it. It's not an item. It's an item block. But we do have to register it to the items because that part isn't done by the item block bit. So item block generator fire. We need to put that into our big list of things that we're registering. And then I think that's most of it, except we need to also register the tile entity. Register tile entity. This way I don't have to type. So tile entity generator fire dot class is the class for our curse you autocomplete. It's the class for our tile entity right here, and we give it the key, which I think is the registry name for the tile entity. And I generally do something like tile generator fire in this case. And then I think that stuff is done. And now we lost the error right here, so no error. Now that has created our block, and it's got the basic stuff of the generator that we copied the code from, and we'll edit that in a minute. But we still haven't given it an actual model. So if we went into the game right now, it would just be a purple and black cube. So we need to go into block states, and this is the part that points the game to the correct model. But yeah, we're going to make a new one, and I will edit it on the other monitor. Basically, I'm just taking a name that's pointing towards this model down here, right here, and I'm changing it to the name of the other model that we're just about to put in. Over on my second monitor, I have the model already made, so we'll pop that in and reload so we can see it. And we need to change it to block generator fire, because that's what we pointed to in the code. All right, block generator fire. Where is that? There it is. And over in the item models, we need to similarly create a new one, block generator fire. And in that one, we basically just point the item model to the to the other model, the one we have in the blocks category. So the item block will look like the block. Aha! Look at that! It's another crash. And this time, hold on, dragging the thing over. Yeah. So this time the offending code was right here, and it's illegal argument exception, value already present, class block generator, tile entity generator. So that's because we tried to register the same tile entity twice because I forgot the word fire. And apparently I've also done that wrong. Hold on. Do I? Oh yeah, I never imported it. There we go. Should have caught that when it was happening, because I know I ought to import this thing whenever I have to use it for the first time. But I didn't have to import it because I was using something that I had already imported and already registered. So we got another exciting crash. and it's because I was trying to register the block generator fire to a registry name that was already taken because I forgot to update that. So let's try it again. Now I probably wouldn't be making so many mistakes if this was me by myself. Just a disclaimer. I'm blaming it on you. However, I think that's everything. So let's see if the game agrees with me. So far, so good. I don't think we'll have problems beyond this point. Now, textures and models I find actually take a couple launches before they work properly. Mostly it's the item block model, I think. So if we go in here, oh no, it did actually work. Nice. So yeah, we've got our fire crystal right there, and I updated the texture there from glass to our crystal, and I think I didn't show you how to do that. It's basically just you open the JSON file and find replace, so it's nothing too complicated. However, we have a new generator now, so that's cool. You might notice it's not got the most fabulous name of all time. So that right there is a simple lang problem. I never actually updated the lang file. Let's see if I can open this thing. Where is it? Open with. Let's go with text editor. There we go. Now I can show you text stuff. So we've got the blocks in this area, the items in this area, and the creative tabs in this area. And we need to add a new entry to the blocks. So tile.block generator fire.name equals fire generator. I'm not being very creative at the moment. I think I'm just going to change all these names anyway. There are two options here. I could go for this sort of techie name, like the binary oscillation crystal type A, or the oscillation collapse crystal, which is what I've currently got. Or I could go for sort of botany-esque, where I go for actual mineral names and crystal names, and I think that would be the less obtrusively, I don't know, the less obtrusive way of doing it, the way that produces better names and less lengthy names as well. So instead of kinetic oscillation crystal, I could do I don't know, Tierite. something a little bit more creative. Tirar is to throw in Spanish, by the way. That's not the best name I could come up with, but something like that, you know, a little bit more abstract than the techie names, and a little bit more easy on the brain, I think. So that's basically what I've been doing to add blocks, and that's sort of my mod already and my GUI system. So I think in the next episode we'll add some function to our tile entity generator fire. So that'll be a little bit more interesting, I think. A little bit more logic, less nitty-gritty details about registry stuff. I felt I had to show that once, but never gonna show it again, probably. Well, at least not with blocks, certainly. Maybe for items, but probably not for items either. Maybe for recipes or sounds. That would probably be more useful, because the rest of it's pretty similar to each other. Anyway, that'll probably be it for this episode, I think. In the next episode, we'll do what I said earlier, and hopefully that'll be fun. So, hopefully you enjoyed it as well, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.